Hello and welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to be talking about John Carpenter's 1982 movie, The Thing. In any discussion about The Thing, there tends to be a preconceived notion about how the titular alien organism works. Basically, it's like a game of Among Us. There's the imposters who know they're imposters, trying to trick the crewmates, and the crewmates trying to figure out who is the imposter. It's a mind game between biological human beings and a creature in disguise trying to pass itself off as a human being. However, after giving it some thought, I have a proposal. What if the thing doesn't know it's a thing? What if, when it's fully disguised as a human being, it legitimately believes it's a human being? In this video, I'm going to discuss the prospect of what if the thing thinks it's a person. Now, naturally, it comes to question, how would I arrive at such a conclusion to begin with? And it comes from how the thing handles things at a cellular level. When a thing cell gets close to the cell of a different biological organism, it will immediately assimilate that cell. And while there would be some alien biological aspects of the copied cell, as far as a cursory surface glance goes, the cell is indistinguishable from that of a normal biological organism. This means at a certain point there is no longer an original part in the ship of Theseus. It looks and acts exactly the same as before, and yet it's composed of completely new parts, ones indistinguishable from the old. That means if someone does get infected by the thing, but they don't know they were infected by the thing, they would continue to think they're a person because the structure of their brain, how the cells are positioned and communicating with each other, would still retain the continued perception of their personhood. They would have no reason to suspect they're not a person. Consider the blood testing scene. Windows is one of the first people tested, but you can see when he does eventually pass, he's visibly relieved. It's almost as if, even though he believes he's a human being, he doesn't know if he's a human being. And there's a prospect that he could be a thing who thinks he's a person. Now you may be asking, why would the thing evolve in such a way that it would deceive itself into thinking it's its host, rather than being something in the know? Why would selective pressures on whatever hell world the thing came from either encourage or at least just allow it to be like that? Wouldn't it be better if it knew it was a thing and therefore be able to strategize how it blends in with the creatures around it? Well, ignoring the fact that evolution isn't a Promethean force, there is actually a reason why it would make advantageous sense for the thing to think it's a person. What's the best way for a thing to blend in with people, if not if it legitimately thinks it's part of the people? It doesn't have to worry about blowing its cover, because as far as it's concerned, there's no cover to blow. It can act completely naturally. Psychologists, and especially evolutionary psychologists like Robert Trivers, talks about self-deception quite a bit, because it is such a powerful force. It's something that lets people carry on with their lives and stay within the good graces of the in-group without putting in a supreme amount of effort into doing so. And I think this does apply to the thing. Rather than having to consciously consider all of these social nuances that comes with being a person, it instead intuitively thinks it's a person and therefore is able to better carry on as normal. Rather than any, hey, fellow human beings, people, persons, sapiens, primates, apes, it's, hey guys, how's it going? Consider who the thing is in the blood drawing scene, Palmer, and what happens to him in the scene prior to the tests.
You tie up Palmer over here.
He willingly allows himself to be tied up, and his only objection prior to the tests revealing what he is tying up the dead bodies because they're dead. He doesn't see the point in it. It's revealed later during that scene that both dead bodies are people, so it's not even like a thing waiting to spring a trap with his buddy. Some people have speculated that some of the facial expressions Palmer makes reveals that he knows he's a thing, but I think it's just as likely that he legitimately thinks he's a person, and the reason he's willing to be tied up is because he assumes he'll pass the test. Otherwise, why not just then and there thing out when you're in a less compromised position? Now, obviously, there comes a point where a thing is very well aware that it's a thing. Like, I'm pretty sure this asshole isn't wondering if he's really a human being or not by that point. But on a more subtle level, on instances of, say, sabotaging the base or even trying to repair the UFO, it can still be a question as to if the individual doing that is fully aware that they're benefiting the thing as opposed to the people. I've mentioned self-deception before, and it comes up quite a lot in my thinking about these scenes. It could very well be possible that a person who's fully infected with thing materials is going to unwittingly, unconsciously act in a manner that benefits a thing while believing that it could inadvertently benefit humanity. Not only having knowledge about how to rebuild a UFO and being able and willing to do it seems like such a extreme example, but consider what a thought process behind it might be for someone who thinks he's a person when he's a thing. There's something out here that's clearly not human and clearly not from Earth. There's a broken down spaceship here. Maybe if I repair it, it'll get in the spaceship and it'll fuck off. All while being unaware of the unconscious psychological alien forces behind that thought process. This isn't even that grand of a claim if you consider some of the things that happens in biology here on Earth. For example, cordyceps have gained popularity in large part due to the Last of Us series, and they are very famous for their ability to force ants to climb up onto tall grass in order to release cordyceps spores more easily. In fact, there's plenty of examples in nature of a parasite forcing the host or tricking the host into benefiting the parasite unbeknownst to the host. For a more macroscopic example, there's a cuckold, a bird that lays its eggs and nests in place of the actual bird species' own eggs and tricks that bird into rearing its young. Time, energy, and resources are spent rearing the young of a genetic stranger in place of the mother's own offspring, and she's none the wiser. And then we get even closer to ourselves, where evolutionary psychologists have found that men do have certain psychological mechanisms that allow them to avoid being cuckolds, to avoid raising someone else's children. And on top of all that, there's gaslighting, there's political persuasion, there's tribalism, there's multiple ways of getting a human being to unwittingly act against its own best interest. And of course, the single best way of getting a human being to do things against his or her own best interest is to get them to believe that they are doing it of their own volition, that they came up with the idea themselves, that it's actually going to benefit them through some 5D mental chess game. No, really, that Nigerian prince really will give you $200,000 if you just wire him a couple thousand of your own. Self-deception is an incredibly powerful tool, and now we're dealing with a biological entity of alien origins that may be able to go beyond what we consider possible in our own reality. So, if we consider this prospect, then let us take the conversation to one that has been had by many a movie fan, a scene that has become rather famous for the amount of discussions and discourses and fan theories it's managed to produce, an all-time mystery in the history of cinema. What about the ending scene between Macready and Childs? Which of them is a person and which of them is a thing? Macready is a person and Childs is the thing. Like, there's multiple pieces of evidence for that in the cinematography, in the dialogue. It's been confirmed by the video game tie-in that John Carpenter considers canon. Childs is an alien, Macready is a human being. I'm not bringing anything major to the table in that regard. However, one of the things people point out as a reason why they think Childs is a thing and not a person is that Macready has his bottle with him, and he passes it over to Childs, and Childs drinks from it, which he obviously wouldn't do unless he was a thing and wasn't worried about being contaminated with thing biological material. Even though we just lived through a deadly pandemic where half of the population seemed uninterested in taking basic precautionary measures, we're going to assume that Childs is a smart lad and would try and take precautionary measures against a deadly alien virus. However, I think this only really makes sense if Childs is a thing but doesn't think he's a thing. I even made a chart about it. It's all based on what Childs thinks about himself and Macready. If he thinks he's a person and believes Macready is a person, then I do think he would drink from it because as far as he's concerned, there's literally no danger to it. However, if Childs is a thing and knows he's a thing but still thinks Macready is a person, he might actually not accept the drink because it might be such a huge tip-off to someone who isn't a thing. He would think that Macready is already suspicious of him and wouldn't want to make himself look more suspicious. And if he thought he was a person and Macready was a thing, then again he wouldn't accept the drink because, as stated before, let's not ingest alien biological material. And if he thinks he's a thing and thinks Macready is a thing, then I don't know, do things just share drinks at times? So in conclusion, I think that there are moments in the movie where someone could be converted fully into an alien organism at a cellular level and yet still believe that they are completely human. This is a thing that would evolve because it provides great advantages in being able to blend in naturally with things that aren't fully converted into alien organisms and make it easier to convert them into alien organisms. There could be moments where at an unconscious level, the thing biology is compelling the host, the body, to act in a way that benefits the thing, while consciously the individual still believes they're a normal human being and are actually acting within their own best interest. And the best explanation as to the mystery behind the dynamic between Macready and Childs at the end of the movie is that Childs is a thing who thinks he's a person and thinks Macready is a person as well. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the subject. I hope you enjoyed the video, that gave you something to think about and otherwise entertained you. Take care.